Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gene Key or Gate 7. You might notice that my background's changed a bit. It's looking kind of bare. That is because my fiance Oliver and I are moving our life down to Mexico. So I'm in the process of packing and preparing, which is quite fun. Before I dive in, there are some links below to my new podcast and to download the boundary visualization if you'd like to get a visualization on how to create energetic boundaries from your heart center. Gate 7, Gene Key 7. We are transiting this gate between August 6th and August 11th. You'll find this gate in the G center that connects to the throat via gate 31. And only about a week ago, the sun was highlighting 31. So we're spending some time in this channel, which is the channel of the alpha, the leader, highly appropriate for Leo season. And you're going to find this in collective logic. So in quantum human design language, this is known as the gate of collaboration. In traditional language, it's known as a role of the self in interaction. In the I Ching, it's the army. So this transit, it's important to note that this is a projected gate, meaning it needs to be seen, recognized, and invited in order for it to be active. So there's that recognition that's needed, and then it's about being called into leadership by influencing and lifting others up. I'm watching this show right now called The Bear. It's about a chef that goes in and takes over his brother's restaurant who has died. And this idea of being a leader that lifts others up to empower them, I see this in The Bear, even though there's very human aspects of this happening in this chef. But he is empowering other people to be their full, complete versions of themselves. And to me, this is what I see as a real, true leader. So how can you channel that during this transit? Because remember, even if you don't have this gate, this transit is... you get flavors of this, right? While it might not be consistent energy for you, this archetype of the alpha, the leader, is you get to draw on that sometimes as well. So on the shadow side of this, there's this struggle and fight to be seen as the leader. And you see this in the show as well, in The Bear. The chef's trying to fight because he's getting pushback and because he wasn't actually invited into that. He kind of fell into that role. And you watch him in the show where his energy is totally drained from this. And it's not until the people actually see him for who he is and how he shows up authentically as himself that they then feel empowered, and then he's the leader of this amazing team. So on the full expression of this gate, you're going to find that it's about stepping in and embracing the power that comes from supporting and collaborating with others. It's a collaboration energy. And true leadership doesn't necessarily mean that you're up front, that you're the one who everyone sees. Often leadership comes from showing up. In my therapy groups, I did a lot of group study in therapy. And we would call this the psychological leader. Someone who would show up in the group from a place of vulnerability or a place of moving the group forward. And all they're doing is showing up as themselves, but it then inspires others to do that. And so sometimes they're often in the background and not really seen until they say something. And just that one thing they say or how they show up shifts everything. So on the Gene Key side, we have the shadow of division, the gift of guidance, and the Siddhi of Virtue. The shadow of division is what we see in our current world, that's responsible for hierarchy in not only how we act, but also how we think. And this causes us to create classes, castes, political wings. And it's a built in program or conditioning field in us to follow the leader. And it looks at receiving or gaining power through force, as an army would, rather than through inspiring or empowering. Because even in democracy now, right, it's democratic, but it is still very hierarchical, because each party needs to secure a certain number to win. And there are political games that happen through lying, cheating, manipulation, gossip, slandering, right? And that shadow that we see play out is based on craving more power rather than leadership for the good of all. So what I love about this is this genetic imprinting that Richard Rudd talks about in that there are people who are built-in leaders, what he calls alpha leaders. And in the shadow side of these alpha leaders, we see that force comes out to create followers and thus victims, right? And that we play that out with these so-called leaders because we give our power away. So if there's a leader somewhere and you are looking to them either to save you or you're looking to them as the villain, you're playing in the victim mindset, which we've all done. I've done it many times too. And when there is leadership based on fear, which is what the shadow is, there is this underlying fear of losing your power, which sustains the hierarchy. And so you see this play out on the hidden sense, where there are people who hold this leadership quality about them, but they keep it hidden. And the world is full of hidden leaders. And it doesn't mean you're going to be a leader for decades and decades, but you might just be a leader in a moment with your group of friends. That makes you a leader. When you say something that you feel really called from your heart to say. And so there are so many of us that remain hidden. And when we stay hidden and we don't step into leadership, meaning from your heart, it leads to frustration and resentment, which manifests then into the body and the emotions. And then on the other side of this, you can see this is dictatorial, which is where and we see this a lot, where there's an abuse in the position and take advantage of the followers and attracting followers who are at victim consciousness level. And this creates a reliance through manipulating them. So what I found really interesting is that Richard Rudd says that the alpha gene is in our genetics, right? That we hold that gene. But what's also really interesting is that they used to think that this was wolf packs. There was a alpha male and an alpha female. And if you introduced another wolf into the pack, there would be bloodshed and horror. So this is actually the shadow of this. That's not, now that they've discovered that is actually not how wild wolf packs operate. That is if you introduce a new wolf into a wolf pack that has been in captivity, not a wolf pack that is out in its free range. And so it's like that whole alpha gene, it's the shadow side of it that plays out. In these wolf packs that in the wild, it's actually a family. There's a breeding pair, a mom and a dad, and then their offspring that stay with them for like 2 to 3 years. And so there's this natural stepping into leadership that happens there. And this is a beautiful representation of the gift of guidance, is that the leadership is not imposed upon, or we don't impose the leadership upon anyone. It's about guiding people to find their own way forward in life. It's about teaching sovereignty, which is what the highest expression of a mother and father do. And it's about being service based. Like at the highest expression, parents having children have these like amazing, amazing, powerful, what's the word I'm thinking of? They've called in something very important to do in this lifetime, and that is to be of service to their children, to raise them to believe in sovereignty, right? Not to be a dictator. And unfortunately, at this moment in time, that's still being sorted out, let's say. And so on this service-based leadership, it's like about being there to know that the people who you are in service to, your service to them is going to create a profound ripple for the good of everyone. Because remember, this is collective energy. And this is what we would call ideal democracy. The true leader is the ultimate listener and listens so deeply to not only what's being said, but what's being felt, emoted, and psychically communicated. And they guide their, and I wouldn't even call them followers, but I'm reaching for a word right now. They're guiding the energy towards the future that they can see, the vision that the group wants for themselves. And this is kind of what we would see when I taught the first year of psychology at the school I graduated from. It was, you would guide, this is what you do in group work, you guide the energy of the group. And so sometimes the leader isn't actually the one to do the teaching. Sometimes it's a member of the group that shares their experience that then teaches everyone. And a good leader will allow that to happen, knowing that sometimes hearing something from your peers is better than hearing it from the leader. So the Siddhi is virtue, and this is all about being in the now moment, at the same time focusing on the future for the children to come, the future of what is to unfold, to create a better world for everyone. Richard Rudd talks about how often this Siddhi lies very dormant because this Siddhi will only come out in perfect timing when there is a rise in collective consciousness, because otherwise this will be glossed over and not seen. And my guides just said this very simple thing. To operate from this level, the gift or the Siddhi, we know what to hold and we know what to lead. We gather the energy of the people and we guide the energy. A true leader knows how to connect to many, not so that they fight together as in an army, but so they create together. This is true leadership, to guide the energy so that we rise to our creative potential. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to hear your comments on how this transit is working for you. Thank you so much. If you feel called, please like, share, or subscribe.